evening, RENEWS English section is on air. I'm Sona Tumanyan. Join us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X. Get your portion of information from our official website, recipient.media. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation on the sixth day of military operations against Iran, saying Israel continues its mission to eliminate Iran's nuclear threat and now controls Tehran's airspace. Despite acknowledging painful losses, Netanyahu stressed that Israel's home front remains strong. He thanked U.S. President Donald Trump for his ongoing support, noting the two leaders are in the constant contact. Meanwhile, Iranian state TV was briefly hacked, with broadcasts interrupted by messages urging citizens to take to the streets.
Dear citizens of Israel, we are on the sixth day of Operation Lion's Valley. We embarked on this operation to remove two existential threats to the state of Israel, the nuclear threat and the ballistic missile threat. We are progressing step by step in removing these threats. We control the skies over Tehran. We are striking the Ayatollah regime with immense force. We are hitting the nuclear program, the missiles, the headquarters, and the symbols of power. And I must tell you, when I speak with world leaders, there is tremendous admiration for our determination, for the achievements of our forces, and there is also tremendous admiration for you, the citizens of Israel, for your steadfast spirit and for your resilience. And I want to say, we are sustaining many losses, painful losses, but we see that the home front is strong, the people are strong, and the state of Israel is stronger than ever. I have instructed the government ministries to provide assistance to all who have been harmed. At the same time, the intense fighting in the Gaza Strip continues. We are committed to continuing and achieving both missions, the defeat of Hamas and the return of all our hostages, the living and the deceased alike. We are not letting up on this. To my sorrow, in recent days, heroic fighters have also fallen. I share in the grief of the families. On behalf of the government and the entire nation, we send our condolences and embrace them. We will continue until we bring everyone back and until Hamas is definitively defeated. I wish to thank President Trump, a very great friend of the State of Israel. I thank him for standing with us. I thank him for the support the United States is providing in the defense of Israel's skies. We speak continuously, including a very warm conversation we had last night. And I wish to thank President Trump for his backing. Citizens of Israel, together we will fight, and with God's help, together we will win.
President Donald Trump vetoed an Israeli plan in recent days to kill Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, two U.S. officials told Reuters on Sunday. Have the Iranians killed an American yet? No. Until they do, we are not even talking about going after the political leadership, said one of the sources, a senior U.S. administration official. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei warned the United States on Tuesday that any military strike against Iran would trigger serious, irreparable consequences, declaring that Iran will not surrender under pressure. Trump responded.
Say good luck.
Is the U.S. moving closer to striking Iran's nuclear sites? Trump's response was more than intriguing.
You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so. And I was telling them, you gotta do something. You gotta negotiate. And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to do that, and they got hit. Remember 60 days, and then came the 60. 61 is going to become a very famous number. That was one hell of a hit, that first hit. That was one hell of a hit. Not sustainable, to be honest. That's where it ended. It ended on the first night, yes.
Speculation over the possible assassination of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has sparked swift international reactions, though unconfirmed rumors triggered strong responses from key players in the region. "I don't even want to discuss that," Putin said at the St. Petersburg Forum. Russian President Vladimir Putin called the idea too dangerous to even discuss, warning of global consequences. Israeli Defense Minister has declared that removing Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, whom he compared to a modern-day Hitler, is one of Israel's key objectives.
Yes, they need to be dealt with, and we in the cities will focus on the resilience of the people of Israel from within, 100%. We support you. Look, all the residents are saying, keep going until the end. We will continue until the end. And it is very serious that a dictator like Khamenei is sitting there with an ideology of the destruction of Israel and constantly harnesses all of his country's resources for this horrific goal. A person like that should not be allowed to exist.
Lebanon's Hezbollah movement issued a strong warning, saying the assassination of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would lead to disastrous consequences. In an official statement, Hezbollah expressed full support for Khamenei in response to threats reportedly made by Israeli and U.S. leaders, calling any such act a dangerous escalation. U.S. President Donald Trump revealed that he spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday, who offered to mediate in the ongoing Iran-Israel conflict. Can we call this answer diplomatic? I don't know.
Putin would have never done it. And I spoke to him yesterday, and I said, he actually offered to help mediate. I said, do me a favor. Mediate your own. Let's mediate Russia first, okay? I said, Vladimir, let's mediate Russia first. You can worry about this later. But I think that's going to work out too. But so many people have been killed. The big thing with that one is far more people are dead than have been reported in the Ukraine, Russia. Many, many more people. A building falls down, they say nobody was hurt. So ridiculous.
In a parallel reality, Moscow isn't staying silent. Russia has called on Israel to immediately stop its attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities, labeling the strikes an unprovoked aggression and a violation of international law. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova condemned the operation, calling it a criminal act of adventurism that threatens both regional and global security. She warned that such actions breach the UN Charter and could have serious consequences.
Russia calls on the Israeli leadership to immediately stop raids on nuclear facilities in sites that are under IAEA safeguards and are objects of IAEA verification activities. We are especially concerned about the safety of Bushehr nuclear power plant, where Russian specialists are involved. The harsh and irreconcilable reaction of the global majority countries to the Israeli strikes on the territory of Iran, including nuclear energy infrastructure, coupled with the results of the emergency meeting of the UN Security Council on June 13th and the special session of the IAEA Board of Governors on June 16th, testifies to the rejection of the confrontational course and destructive actions of the Israeli leadership.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping discussed the escalating situation in the Middle East, reaffirming their shared stance. Both Russia and China strongly condemned Israel's action as violations of the UN Charter and emphasized that the conflict cannot be resolved through military means. The influence of this dialogue on the US is hard to predict. Let us wait for a while. Fresh details have emerged after the latest rocket attacks on Israel. In Ramat Gan, a residential building was directly hit with 12 people reported injured, all with minor wounds. In Holon, 7 people were hurt by another strike. In Tel Aviv, a large piece of debris fell, causing light injuries to 1 person.
Air defense was activated on the outskirts of Tehran after midnight. The Israeli army has confirmed that a series of strikes took place against Tehran and other cities in the morning. During the same hours, according to the Israel Defense Forces estimate, Iran launched about 30 ballistic missiles at Israel. The central cities of Holon and Ramat Gan came under rocket attack, as did the Saraka Hospital and the southern city of Beersheba, where patients and staff were in a shelter at the time of the attack. According to preliminary data, about 70 people were injured, 6 of whom are in serious condition. Israeli opposition leader Benny Gantz lamented that, while they are targeting Iran's nuclear infrastructure and missile installations, Iran is striking Israeli hospitals and children. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz declared that this is the worst kind of war crime, and that Khamenei will be held accountable for his crimes. According to him, he and Prime Minister Netanyahu have instructed the army to intensify strikes against Iran's strategic and governmental targets in Tehran in order, in his words, to undermine the Ayatollah's regime. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar is certain that Iran is intentionally targeting civilians. The IDF also struck Iran's nuclear facilities in Iraq and Natanz, as well as factories producing raw materials and components for ballistic missiles and air defense systems. According to Iran's official IRNA agency, Tehran informed the International Atomic Energy Agency about the attack, accusing Israel of continuous aggression and actions contrary to international laws prohibiting attacks on nuclear facilities. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Kazim Garibabadi issued a statement warning the United States against any direct intervention between Israel and Iran. If the U.S. wants to actively intervene and support Israel, Iran will have no choice but to use its tools to teach the aggressors a lesson and to defend itself. Our military decision-makers have all the necessary scenarios at hand, Garibabadi said, adding, "We advise the U.S. to at least stand aside if they do not want to stop Israel's aggression." Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, warned Washington that its participation in the conflict would cause irreversible damage to the U.S. The Ayatollah's statement came one day after U.S. President Donald Trump demanded unconditional surrender on social media, where he noted that the U.S. knows Khamenei's location but is not planning to kill him for now. According to the Israeli army, the latest strikes on Iran have damaged factories producing uranium centrifuges and missile components. In the past 7 days, Iran has launched about 400 missiles at Israel. Israel has officially announced the deaths of 24 civilians. Iran has reported at least 224 victims, the majority of whom are civilians. However, that number has not been updated for 3 days.
Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz said he and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have instructed the Israeli military to intensify strikes against strategic targets in Iran after Iran launched its latest wave of ballistic missiles at cities across Israel on Thursday. The cowardly Iranian dictator sits deep inside his fortified bunker and launches deliberate attacks at hospital and residential buildings in Israel, Katz said in a statement shared by the Defense Ministry, referring to Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. These are the gravest forms of war crimes, and Khamenei will be held accountable for his crimes. The Prime Minister and I have instructed the IDF to intensify strikes against strategic targets in Iran and against government sites in Tehran in order to remove the threats facing the state of Israel and destabilize the Ayatollah's regime, he said according to the statement. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on Thursday said he would head to Geneva to attend talks on his country's nuclear program with counterparts from key European powers France, Germany and Britain, and the EU's top diplomat. Israel on Thursday tagged Iran's nuclear facilities as Iranian missiles struck several sites in Israel, including a direct hit on a medical center in the south of the country. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says its missile strike on Tel Aviv was aimed at a secret Israeli military has hidden beneath Soroka Medical Center. The claim was made via the IRGC's official Telegram channel. The strike caused major damage to the hospital, injuring staff and patients. Iran insists the base, not the medical facility, was the intended target, while Israel accuses Tehran of hitting civilian infrastructure. The attack was part of a larger missile barrage that wounded dozens across Tel Aviv, Ramat Gan, and Holon, escalating tensions in the ongoing Iran-Israel conflict. A large banner featuring U.S. President Donald Trump and the message, "Mr. President, finish the job," was hung on a high-rise building in Tel Aviv as calls grow for stronger U.S. action against Iran. According to Bill, the Israeli government is placing high hopes on Trump to launch a military strike on Iran amid the ongoing conflict and regional escalation. U.S. protests erupted in New York, Boston, and Los Angeles as demonstrators condemned Israel's actions in Gaza and Iran. In New York's Times Square, crowds railed with "Free Palestine" signs. Boston saw similar scenes near Copley Square, while Los Angeles hosted peaceful marches in downtown, all targeting perceived aggression by the Israeli government. Separately, dramatic footage from an Indian vessel has surfaced showing Iranian missiles striking across the sky and striking near Tel Aviv and Israel's military sites. Eyewitnesses' videos captured the fiery arcs of incoming missiles with explosions lighting up the skyline. People have continued to flee Iran's capital, Tehran, as Israeli airstrikes show no sign of stopping. Long queues for gas, clogged up highways, and food shortages are just some of the challenges people on the road are facing. A step back to Putin's remarks at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that NATO's planned defense spending hike is no threat to Russia, citing Moscow's self-sufficiency and ongoing military modernization. The comments come ahead of a key NATO summit in The Hague, where leaders may raise defense budgets to 5% of GDP, a move supported by the US President Donald Trump. Putin acknowledged the increased spending could pose specific challenges, but said Russia is prepared to counter any threats. He reaffirmed Russia's continued offensive in Ukraine, framing the war as a part of a border conflict with the West. Kyiv, meanwhile, continues to seek security guarantees from NATO. Putin also said he's open to meeting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, but only in a final phase of negotiations. He questioned Zelensky's legitimacy, claiming his term had expired, a point Kyiv rejects.
These are the strikes your journalists have seen. And of course, if we do not agree through peaceful means, we will achieve the set goals through military means.
The Russian Ministry of Defense has released footage of prisoners of war recently returned from Ukraine under a Russia-Ukraine agreement. The soldiers are currently in Belarus and are expected to be transferred to Russia soon. This move is a part of ongoing prisoner exchanges amid the conflict, reflecting diplomatic efforts to address humanitarian issues. Details on the number of POVs and exchange terms remain limited. Prisoner swaps have been used by both sides as a gesture of goodwill and a tool in broader negotiations, even as fighting continues. The U.S. State Department announced Wednesday it is resuming the processing of student visas, but with stricter screening measures. All applicants must now make their social media accounts public for government review. According to the department, consular officers will examine online posts for content deemed hostile to the U.S. or its values. Applicants who refuse to unlock their accounts may be denied a visa, as this could signal attempts to conceal activity. The Trump administration had paused visa interviews in May to prepare for the expanded digital screening policy. BBC has shared a powerful story highlighting the silent connection between humans and whales, a bond that transcends fear. The feature explores the quiet, emotional dialogue that unfolds when people encounter these majestic creatures in the wild. Hawaiian surfer Mike Coots lost his leg to tiger shark at age 18, but was back in the water just a month later with a prosthetic. Now 44, Coots is a shark conservation advocate, using his photography to challenge negative portrayals of sharks in media. Sharks will need better PR. They're not monsters, says Jeffries, a conservationist and underwater photographer who shoots for National Geographic and is currently working with Disney on a live-action remake of Finding Nemo. One of her shots is a 2019 image of a shark nicknamed Deep Blue, believed to be one of the largest great whales ever encountered. Jeffrey was absolutely honored to have dived with such a large shark, she says. She was incredibly elegant and had stately presence. A live stream has captured the moment a SpaceX Starship rocket exploded in a gigantic fireball when preparing for a flight test. The incident occurred on Wednesday night around 11 p.m. at the Messis Testing Center in Texas. In a statement, the company said no injuries were caused. They said there were no hazards to the surrounding communities and asked people not to approach the area. And just for fun, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer mistakenly shook hands with a South Korean translator instead of President Lee Jae-myung during a diplomatic meeting. The mix-up quickly went viral, though officials from both sides brushed it off as a harmless protocol split. For more updates, follow us on YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, X, Facebook, and Spotify. Daily news and full coverage are available on our official website. I am Sona Tumanyan. Stay informed with us.